Powered by Go-Goat Sports and in partnership with TSN. Welcome to Season 3. This is Episode 9 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. And it is presented to you by our title sponsor, Infinity. Our family's both loving our Infinity vehicles. You can check out their entire line and book your contactless test drive today at infinity.ca. Infinity, conquer life in style. Trevor Zegras, young star, developing star in the National Hockey League. Part of a great story that is the first 18 to 20 games of the Anaheim Ducks will join us here, Ray, in Episode 9. So we've got a lot to talk about with Trevor. So I had a conversation with our colleague, Gordon Miller, the other day. And there were two things that came to mind. I did a lot of listening. Take? You know, the conversations with Gord traditionally go, right?
Yes.
So... yeah, and
you know I travel with him.
So
right?
He links Winnipeg in two ways. He tweeted at length about his experience with you and Sidney Crosby. Was that a couple of years ago or several years ago in Winnipeg?
Yeah, several years ago. Yeah, and it was absurd.
Well, number one,
it was way too bloody cold.
There's some clarification that's required here, or confirmation is a better way to put it. Yeah. It was you, Gord, and Crosby. Correct? Okay, good. So, sometimes Gord gets... I was thinking maybe it was like a...
No. I walked down to the lobby, and they were standing there, and Gord said, "Yeah, we're gonna, Sid wants to walk to the rink," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." I mean, like, that's not going to go very well. I mean, he's not going to get 3 feet and he's going to get mobbed. And he goes, "No, he wants to walk outside." Well, for people that haven't been in Winnipeg, right, they have these pedways that are, what are they, Dregs? 15, like 18 feet above the ground, something like that. And so you can walk from the hotel over to the arena and never go outside. So I didn't have my overcoat. I just had like my suit coat and no gloves, no toque. And so I'm like, yeah, we're going to walk inside. We're going to get over there. And he goes, yeah, Sid wants to go outside. Now, if it would have been another player, I would have told him to beat it. But it was, so I was like, oh, this will be interesting. Well, I don't know Sid that well. And man, he's just you've spent a lot of time around him. Like he's really engaging. Like he's really like in a small group. Like what I found was like, man, he likes to talk and to, like way different than I thought. So we walk outside and each step, like I tweeted, I'm like, what the hell are we doing? Why are we not inside? This is ridiculous. It was like just running in like a loop through my head. I got to the rink and I was like a stiff as a board.
But and like, look, it's like minus 20 degrees Celsius, correct? It's not like it was minus 5 and you could tough it out.
Correct. No, this was not a good idea. And then he goes, pretty fresh, eh, boys? And he walks into the room. Like, fresh. I'm
okay, well, I'm glad to hear all that because, look, Gord is how do I put this? He is a very thorough storyteller, right? Gets right down to the nitty-gritty details. Yeah, sometimes, like most of us, there's a hint of exaggeration in the storytelling. So
Do you know what? I will tell you, I listened to a podcast, Dregs, Malcolm Gladwell, and it talks about memory. And it is unbelievable. Yeah. He's got a whole 6 seasons of them. But anyway, this one was on memory. If me and you were at a dinner perhaps in Herning, and we try to remember those events of that dinner exactly, even though we sat there at the same time at the same table on the same night, you will remember something different than me. It was really cool. And so, but I'm telling you that tweet storm, I saw it yesterday and I'm like, oh geez, what the hell is he talking about now? And then I went, yep. All the way down. Bus driver stops the bus at a light to get over and shake Sid's hand. He got out of the bus. Hey, Sid, how you doing? Yeah.
How good is that? Okay, well, I'm glad. Look, I wasn't questioning the authenticity of the tweets from Gord Miller. I just wanted to make sure that the events played out the way that he said they played out, because I can't imagine I can imagine everybody participating in the fashion that he described. You being not so happy about it, but sticking through it and waiting until Crosby's gone into the dressing room or away from you to say to Gord, we're never effing doing that again. What's wrong with you?
And I will say, I will never do it again. Like that wasn't a moment that would change. Not again. If that happened again, I'd say, fellas, enjoy your walk.
Now, to wrap this up,
I'm going
the
upstairs.
reason that I brought up Winnipeg, aside from the storytelling of Miller, he couldn't call me fast enough last week after having to convince you that you have a Winnipeg game. You apparently had forgotten, had overlooked this Winnipeg Jets game, this trip to Winnipeg, and you were surprised and were a bit alarmed that you didn't have your travel plans ironed out for said trip to Winnipeg.
So we're sitting before the last Leaf game at home, Rangers. We're sitting there eating our meal, and Gord says, oh, man, Jets are playing tonight. I hope they don't have those third jerseys on. He said, like, the red numbers are really hard to see from the press box. And I said, well, I don't care. I don't have any numbers. I don't care what color the jerseys are. He's like, yeah, you do. You got a game December the 5th. I'm like, no, I don't. He's like, yes, you do. So I pull up my schedule. I go, no, I don't. He pulls up the master schedule. Yes, I do. Well, I'm in Arizona. I'm going to be the only person flying from Arizona to Winnipeg in December. Everybody's going the other way. And so I'm like, so I had to call ESPN and TSN Travel to change my flights because, well, I'm not where I thought I was going to be. I thought I was coming home after Arizona a couple of days. No, I got to go from Arizona to Winnipeg to Toronto. And all my flights were screwed up. If we wouldn't have had that 2-minute conversation, Gord would have been would have texted me and said, hey, when do you get into Winnipeg? And I would have said next year. And he would have been, no, you got to be here today. So that was an oversight.
Yeah.
So then we went through my schedule. I got it all.
That's a good
now.
teammate,
I'm going to be where I'm supposed to be.
We kind of knocked Gord around a little bit earlier in the intro of the podcast. But that is what he is noted for, aside from being the great play-by-play guy that he is.
It was one of the greatest things, satisfaction for me. We were doing a playoff game in Philadelphia, I don't know, 100 years ago. I don't know, 8 years ago. And so you come out of the arena and there's two ways to go. You can go on the highway or you can go up Broad Street and like kind of through the city streets. And Gord's convinced we should go on the highway. And we're like, there's like three of us in the car and we're like, don't go on the highway. He's like, no, the highway's the best way. We're like, don't go on the highway. He pulls on the highway. There's 8 million cars on the highway. And the whole way he had to stew in it because, of course, we're like, oh, I bet you the other way would have been better. I bet it would have been quicker the other way. It's about the only time travel-wise he's made the incorrect choice.
He takes the details of travel very, very seriously and wears it like a badge of honor, right? Because he is always right when it comes to those things. That's good stuff.
The problem is he is always right. That's it's not like he thinks he is. He is. And that really
All right, coming up on episode 9, we've got Trevor Zegras of the Anaheim Ducks. He'll be our guest interview. But first off, thanks to everybody who entered our massive Endy Experience giveaway. And a big congratulations to our winner, Shay from Surrey, BC. She scores the grand prize package, all the amazing Endy products worth about $2,000, all courtesy of our friends at Endy. And you can check out all of their amazing products at endy.ca. Headlines brought to you by our friends at Boston Pizza. Just in time for the holidays, from now until the end of the year, you get a free $10 promo card when you buy a $50 Boston Pizza gift card. All right, well, I think we'll start with a little bit of Canadian content. Ray, that's what we used to call it back in the day of Radio Land, right? You had to have your CanCon, your Canadian content. And we're not biased. Yeah. We're not biased to the 7 Canadian teams here. We are an all-encompassing, all-world type of podcast. So we do.
Well, we got some U.S. stuff coming up here, and some of it's great, some of it's really
the
stinky.
Islanders, Buffalo goaltending, we've got a lot of that. So
they're playing dodgeball
okay,
right now.
We'll explain what that means aside from the obvious. I mean, they scored 4 last night. That's probably a game you're going to hang in there. You might even win when you score 4 in Buffalo. But hold on, I know you want to get going on that, so we'll get to that. Well, let's get
going with Calgary.
Calgary's terrific.
Aren't they awesome?
We've made a point here on the podcast of being positive. So I'm going to gloss over what is or isn't happening in Vancouver, because I know we have Canucks fans who are loyal to the podcast. And I guess it's a good thing, or perhaps an indication that they don't know how, or they just can't fix it. But things really haven't changed much, if at all, in Vancouver. So what's your assessment been in the last week?
I think it's the problems are pretty obvious, and they don't know how to fix it. And the problem is they want to fix it by next Monday. Their problems are not fixable that quick. They keep talking about themselves in this present state. They're not going to win. They're not good enough. So you have to look at how can you become better. Well, becoming better probably is not the road they've sold ownership on, or what ownership wants, what the fans thought, or maybe wanted to think. They're not good enough. They're not, like, somebody asked me the other day, I was out and they're like, how long till they can contend? And I was like, for what? Yeah. Like, contend for a cup? Oh, years. Because it doesn't all just, the pieces don't just fall out of the sky. Where are they going to get an NHL caliber, Stanley Cup caliber blue line? Mm-hmm. Like, where's that going to come from? It doesn't come in a year. It doesn't come in 3 weeks. Their best young prospects are forwards, and they're playing. But Golson is really starting to, make a stride to the next step. Hoglander was terrific last year, and is, this Energizer bunny. They've got a young forward, Klimovich, that they drafted this past year. No. Those are kind of like the top end of their group.
Right.
None of them are defensemen.
Yeah. Well, look, there's a ton of speculation. It seems to have calmed a little bit, but every day there's something, right? Everybody has a theory or has some inside information that suggests this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And then rumors get floated out there. And there really isn't, the latest one was about JT Miller. And his agent, Brian Bartlett, who's actually the son of my agent, Steve Bartlett. So Brian is the family business is transitioning to Brian, and really sharp kids. And he said they've had no comment or no conversation with the Canucks about JT Miller. But of course teams are going to call and offer a lifeline. Hey, we could help you out.
Yeah. What I would say is, look, we work in a world of speculation, and part of it is fun. Part of it is healthy. And I think that the players have developed a thick enough skin over the years that, they're used to it. It doesn't really matter. But in my end of the business, where my radar starts to intensify is when things are quiet. And when the people that you normally go to inside an organization aren't responding, right? Which is unusual. That tells me that something is going on. Could be personnel change. Obviously, it could be a trade. But, last week we talked about a meeting between Francesco and Jim Benning, and at least temporarily the direction of patience. Let's just see if this group can come together.
Do you know what, Dregs? You said about a meeting and Francesco, the owner, Francesco Aquilini, and Jim Benning, the GM. And one thing that strikes me a little bit is there seems to be a lack of cohesion, if you go back a couple of years even, between what Travis Green says and what Jim Benning says when they have availabilities. It goes back to Trevor Linden. Trevor would say it was Monday and Jim Benning would say it was Tuesday. And then eventually Trevor left And so Jim's in charge. And then now last week they're talking about the penalty killing, and Green's talking about the personnel, and Benning's talking about the coaching.
Yeah.
It's like it's a very uncoordinated message towards
all right. Well,
whatever the
we'll
issues
stay on
are.
it, obviously. And, fortunately or unfortunately, it's going to be a topic for podcasts in the near future. But you mentioned Calgary, which is where we were originally going to start, and with good reason, right? I mean, everything is going right for the Calgary Flames. And I always say this, you don't necessarily cheer for teams, I cheer for individuals. So when you've got individual players, coaches, management doing good things, and there's results and a positive response on the ice, that's good for the game. That's good for all of us to focus on. And there's not a lot going wrong, is there, for the Calgary Flames, from coaching to goaltending to Johnny Gaudreau and the forwards doing what they need to do. I mean, this team looks really, really dialed in right now.
Just an unbelievable 7-game trip they just finished. They're playing at home tonight against Chicago, but they tonight being Tuesday. But they come off a road trip: 4 wins, 1 loss, 2 ties, or 2 overtime losses. They lose in Montreal to start the trip. They get points in 6 straight games on the road. They win their last 3 on the road. They outscore the opposition 14-2. Like, that's a steamroll. They go in the last game of the trip, which has always got the potential to stink because everybody's exhausted and looking forward to going home, and they shut out Boston 4-0. You mentioned Johnny Gaudreau. This is the Gaudreau from a couple of years ago, right? He's got 22 points. He shoots the puck this year. He skates to create space. Man, this is what he was. He looks terrific. Andrew Mangiapane, seriously, the guy should throw away his home jersey. He's got 15 goals. He's got 14 of them on the road. Like, I love the energy that guy plays with. This is what teams that become good have. Mangiapane was a 6th round draft pick. Like, you get lucky or you hit or whatever. It's a pick like this. Now, he has talked a lot about what Dale Hawerchuk, the late Dale Hawerchuk, meant to him and how much he helped. But that kid had the claw and scratch and energy. He was an energy creator. A couple of years ago in the playoffs against Colorado, where Gord and I were doing the series for NBC, and we're like, man, this kid is everywhere. Like, kind of, who is he? And now he's just grow and grow and grow. Then you get, they changed their defense a little bit, but what they did was they basically built the Daryl Sutter defense. So they bring in these 2 giants in Goodbranson and Zadorov. Now, the puck begs for mercy when either of those guys has it, right? Like, it's not like they're feathery dishing it around, but they give them a role. They want them to do that role and not expand it. And they kill penalties. They're mean. They're big. They keep their minutes down. The other defenseman that has been maybe one of the great stories in the league that doesn't get much attention or no attention really is Oliver Shillington. And he has had a fantastic start. He was scratched most of last year. Darryl never used him. Scratched the first game. No, played 3 minutes the first game this year. Scratched the second game. Paired with Chris Tanev the third game. He's been one of their best players. And that leads us to the goaltending. And so they got Jacob Markstrom, $7 million for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And 2 years ago. Now they need a cheap backup, so they go get Dan Vladar from Boston, because Boston doesn't want to take a chance on Swayman and Vladar, like 2 really young guys. So they let Vladar go. He's got 2 shutouts. He's 4-0. Their save percentages are in the 940s, both of them. Their goals against is under 1.9. Like, they are grinding teams to a pulp. It's impressive.
Let's shift to Colorado. And they seem to have turned a bit of a corner here. They haven't been healthy through much of this year. Nate McKinnon's still on the sidelines, but they're consistently getting better. Big night against Ottawa for Cale Makar. Man, is he silky smooth. There are players that you can just watch and you marvel, even though they've been around long enough that you shouldn't. But, McDavid, of course, fits in that category. Draisaitl, there are many around the NHL. And this was a tough one for the Ottawa Senators. But Makar was terrific. And then you've got Nazem Kadri, who probably isn't getting enough attention, is he, Ray? You look at the point-scoring lead in the National Hockey League, and you've got 2-3 staples, right? You've got Draisaitl, you've got McDavid, you've got Ovechkin, and then there's Nazem Kadri, who's top 5 in point production on a 9-game heater point streak. And we are talking about him because you want to talk about him, but he's not garnering a whole lot of headlines outside of Colorado.
No, I did the game Friday night in Seattle. They were up 7-0 at one point. They ended up winning, I think, 7-3. And Kadri was everywhere. Like, without McKinnon, right, they're pretty shy up the middle of the ice. And then JT Compher got hurt. Right. So now they become even more thin. And he played about 20 minutes. He's playing about 18 and a half minutes right now. And I've not seen him like this in a long time. Like, when the puck's on his stick, like, something's happening. He's got that 9-game point streak. He's got 19 points, right? 14 assists. He plays almost the full 2 minutes on the power play. He's killing penalties. He's taken their face-offs. He's over 50% face-offs. Just a brilliant run, which helps them, gloss over McKinnon somewhat. McKinnon's only played 8 games. They've played 15. He's played 8. They don't have Comfort. They don't have Bo Byram, who is a fantastic young defenseman. I really hope they take their time with him. I talked to him briefly in the hallway after the game in Seattle, and terrific kid. And I just said, for what it's worth, I'm like, take your time. Like, there's no rush. He's had concussion issues. I'm like, man, there is no rush. Just please take your time. You bring up Makar. So he's on the blue line, walking across the blue line. The forward's skating forward. Makar's going backwards and sideways. And it was like each step he took, he threw a little bit of sand in front of him. And the guy got farther and farther away. I'm like, how the hell did he just do that? He scored 2 goals in Seattle. He scored 2 goals last night, back-to-back 2-goal games. For my money, there's not 5 defensemen in the league better than him. I think he is just amazing player. By the way, again, no McKinnon, because he's kind of a big deal. They got 31 goals in 5 games. They just signed their coach, Jared Bednar, a well-deserved 2-year extension. Yeah. I think they run away with the Central Division by the time this is all said and done.
They've faced their adversity and their issues, but it does feel like they're hitting their stride. All right, we teased Buffalo off the top. How much can subpar goaltending just pull at the fabric and eventually tear it apart? Because that's what it looks like is happening in Buffalo.
You don't have a chance, Dregs. Like, you don't need to have the best goaltending in the league. You can't have the worst. It just pulls. You talk about pull the fabric. It's like everybody's worried about everybody else's job. And really what they're all worried about is there's no saves ever to be made. Mm-hmm. So a couple of games ago, they lose 5-4 to the Rangers. The Rangers score with like under a second left. Yeah. In that game, it was 4-4. There was 4 goals scored in 1 minute and 22 seconds. Like, the puck is hitting the middle of the net on both the Buffalo goaltender and the Ranger goalie. Georgiev played for the Rangers, Aaron Dell for the Sabres. Mm-hmm. So then they start Dustin Tokarski, who's played some good games for Buffalo. He gives up 4 goals on 8 shots against Columbus. They got to put Dell back in. Like, they're waiting on Craig Anderson to get healthy. He's 41. Like, these guys they're not, with all due respect, they're not NHL caliber guys for the long term. And so you try and do your best and massage around it, and you can't. Like, I'm looking there, Dell's an .874 save percentage, which is what he was in San Jose. Right. And Dustin Tokarski's around 9, and he's been by far the better of the two, but he can't play 5 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not what he is. Last night, they gave up 2 goals in the first 55 seconds of the second period. Like, they score 4 goals a game.
It's tough to
They
win.
need a save, some saves. And
Yeah.
of course, I'm biased because it's my brother-in-law, Donnie Granato, behind the bench, but they can do whatever they want. They need to get a goalie.
Yeah. And then,
But maybe they're not that concerned about it. They've got a young guy in the minors and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, which, by the way, is one of my favorite names to say. And they'll keep him out of the fray as long as they can, because you don't want him to get pummeled too. But at some point, man, you got to at least be able to hold water here.
Headlines have been brought to you by our friends at Boston Pizza. Now it's time for our interview, and all interviews on Ray and Dregs are brought to you by Canadian Club Whiskey, who are asking, are you over beer? Why not try a refreshing CC ginger ale? Maybe throw a lime in there next time you're having a drink or just watching the game. All right, Trevor Zegras is our guest today on the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. So, Trevor, I've known your head coach, Dallas Eakins, for many, many years. So, I poked around a little bit, trying to learn more about Trevor Zegras. And in fairness, he didn't share too much personal intel. He didn't want me to dive too deep, but he did say, you could say that the coach says that he uses a lot of words in a day. So do you take that as a compliment or how do you explain that from your head coach?
I mean, I'll take it as a compliment, but I think other people can take it how they will. But yeah, I think Dallas is obviously an awesome head coach, and he always gives me a little flack for talking a lot on the bench, but that's just something that I do to kind of keep myself in the game, whether it's chirping guys on the other team or kind of just, I don't know, motivating the bench a little bit. But that's just something I've always done, I guess, to kind of keep my head, in the game.
Is it also like I used to do that? I used to hear that too, focus on the game, don't talk so much and all that stuff. Kind of keeps you in it though, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. And I love the little scrums after the whistles, all that stuff, whether missed call, you're yelling at the refs, just all things that I kind of do to kind of keep my head kind of going and I guess in the right direction, whether it's, I guess Dallas gets on me for talking a little bit too much, but it's just something I've always done to kind of stay focused, I guess.
Now you play with a great flair. We watched you at the World Juniors last year, of course, and you just kind of shredded things up there. And then now I'm looking at Jack Hughes, plays with a certain flair, and love to watch Jack play. And the two of you toss your sticks into the crowd. Like, is that part of the way you guys kind of feed off each other? Like coming out of the development program, like you guys play with a style. Like, is that encouraged there? Because it really seems like it is.
Oh yeah, I think that's the main thing that I learned from the program is kind of play your game, honestly. And that's kind of how I've always played, is kind of making those plays in tight areas or maybe those no look plays. And playing with him, I just learned so much. And obviously playing with all those guys. I mean, we had such a great team my U18 year. Cole Caulfield, Matt Boldy. I mean, I can go down the list, and you kind of just learn something from each guy, and it's a pretty special place to play. And I think I kind of try to play how I played at the U.S. program in college and try to take it over into pro hockey. And obviously not everything's going to work, but obviously, like you said, that flair, I guess, kind of never left. And once I saw him do it, I told him if I ever scored a goal in overtime that I'd do the same. So,
well, I know you picked up a misconduct for it. Keep doing it. First of all, it'll pile up your penalty minutes and it'll look really good. But I don't know. I just thought both you and Jack, it looked really cool. And I think we need that stuff. Like, don't let anyone talk you out of it.
Oh, I won't. But I couldn't believe I got the 10-minute. But I do love the racking up the PIMs a little bit, which was funny.
It looks good. It looks good on the stat line.
And I'll tell you what, there's a follow-up to that here too. I talked to somebody with the league, I won't mention the name, But there was that comparison. Why didn't Jack get one? And Trevor Zegras gets the 10-minute misconduct. I mean, it's end of the game. You're not going to serve it. And league didn't say that they were going to apologize, but they did acknowledge that it was a mistake. It was an overreaction, simply because they want these young guys, right? They want you guys celebrating and engaging with the fans. And there was nothing that was unsafe about it. So as Ray says, keep doing it.
Yeah, I must have been all over the refs that game or something.
That'll happen. Now,
Yeah.
see, you must not be superstitious because you tossed the stick over the glass. Like,
Yeah.
I would have never tossed that. I would have been like sleeping with that thing, hoping it would stay hot.
It's funny. My superstition is, I don't even know if my trainers will like me saying this, but I pretty think I use a new stick for every game. Like, I usually cut one down. For some reason, like if I think there's like a crack or like the blade's a little soft, I just can't use it again. So it kind of just goes into like my practice stick or morning skate stick. But I usually like a fresh one for every game. But it was pretty funny. I came in the next day and I was actually looking for the stick. I totally forgot that I had thrown it into the crowd. I was missing one. I couldn't find it.
Oh, good. Hey, when you were growing up, favorite player, favorite team?
I was a big Ranger fan just because I lived kind of pretty close to those guys. But I would always end up watching like Patrick Kane in Chicago, whether it was sitting at the computer on YouTube, or I actually ended up going to a couple games just to watch him. But I was a big Patrick Kane fan.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite Ranger?
And so many. I loved Zuccarello when we had Zuccarello. I loved the dead controller move. And I went to a couple games where he did the dead controller move in the shootout, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. But I guess earlier I was a big Gabrick fan, just because I don't think we had a guy like Gabrick, and he was just so skilled, and he was definitely a good Ranger when I was growing up.
Did you any other sports playing when you were growing up?
Yeah, I played everything.
You got to be a baseball guy, right?
I played baseball, I played lacrosse, I played tennis, golf, played a little bit of soccer. I tried them all when I was growing up. And tennis, I still play a little bit of tennis and golf in the summer. But lacrosse was one that it was always hockey and lacrosse for me. And then I ended up obviously playing hockey. But
now it's pretty cool you say that, because like when I was growing up, we played all kinds of sports. There wasn't like the extra coaching that guys your age were able to get. So how did you manage doing the extra skill stuff and whatever else you were doing for hockey, but still playing lacrosse and all these other sports?
Yeah. I mean, I think when I was like younger, hockey wasn't something that I kind of obsessed over. Like, I loved playing lacrosse. I loved hanging out with my buddies when I would go play lacrosse, or whenever it was time to play soccer. Like, I was always pretty invested in the sport that I was playing. But at the end of the day, I would always come back to hockey, whether after the lacrosse game, I'd come home and stick handle, or we were playing soccer, I'd rollerblade back to my house or something like that. But I mean, I don't know. It was just never something I kind of obsessed over at a young age. And obviously as I got older, I kind of got more serious about it, and
Right.
had to stop playing those other sports. But
You get to Anaheim now, you're 20, you got Troy Terry's there, he's 24, and you got a whole pile of young guys that are around the team. And then you got Ryan Getzlaf at 38. I mean, like, he's almost old enough to be your dad. And like, what have you seen from him? Like, this year he's been amazing, just amazing. Like, what do you see that you're like that's really cool that he does?
I mean, it's just crazy. Like, he's still, like, I feel like he could play for another 3-4 years. Like, I think he's got a goal and like 18 assists this year, like something outrageous. And just the way that he can pass the puck on and see things that other guys don't see. He'll just get the puck standing still and throw it cross ice through 3 guys on somebody's tape. And I've never seen anybody do the things that he can do. And he's just, obviously, like you said, he's a bit older, but it doesn't feel like he's older. I mean, he kind of is always in the mix with the young guys and hanging out and talking with us in the locker room. But on the flip side, he's just got everybody's respect. And obviously we know he's played for so long and everything that he's accomplished. So it's kind of the best of both worlds with Getzey. And I don't know, it would be weird on this team without him, for sure.
Look, Trevor, everything we've seen from you to this point of your NHL career, you're not difficult to motivate. I mean, you're self-motivated. It comes naturally, the energy that you bring. I know your teammates, the coaching staff, everybody is feeding off it. So you qualify for the Rookie of the Year by one game. Now, for many, okay, that's not a big deal, but I'm going to assume, and you're nodding your head, that there's some added motivation coming into this season, recognizing that, look, I've got 24 games under my belt. It's not entirely new to me. There's an opportunity for me to play my way into that discussion. Is that where your headspace was going into the season?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think obviously last year with the shortened season and kind of going up and down between the NHL and the AHL, getting to that 24 game, I guess, mark, I knew that there was a chance that I'd be eligible for the Calder Trophy this year. And I think that's something that I was kind of excited about, just in terms of I've had the experience last year. Like you said, it's nothing new to me this year. And obviously with the success we're having this year as a team, I think it's easier to kind of keep that, I guess, it's in the back of your mind that, hey, maybe there's a chance that you could be up for this trophy, because I think it's a pretty special award, because you only get the chance to win it once. And as long as we continue the team success, hopefully there will be some individual success, and we can kind of keep the train rolling.
How good can you guys be this year?
Yeah, like I was telling a bunch of the guys, like, it just feels like a different team. Like I just don't recognize us from last year. Like, we play so fast, and we get to the front of the net, and our D are so good. Obviously, we got number 36 back there who's unbelievable every night. Like, it's just a different team from last year. So I mean, we all think that we can make playoffs here, and obviously I'm not trying to jinx anything right now. It's still early, but that's definitely where our head's at. And we want to play late into this season.
So Ray and I had a chuckle, Trevor, a while ago. I mean, probably right after it happened, about you having the, how do I put it? Well, having some fun anyway, right off the face-off against Ryan O'Reilly and the St. Louis Blues, where you bet him $100 that you're going to win that face-off. And Ray and I went back and forth on this in a good way, of course, supporting awesome. Again your level of confidence. How does that come to mind as you're about to face off against a fairly decorated former Stanley Cup champion?
Yeah, so obviously it was at the end of last year, and we were way out of playoffs, and I had just got moved to center, and I mean I don't want to say I was struggling, but it was kind of tough for me to win draws at that point. And obviously going into that game, they have the face-off sheet, and I think he was like 60 or 70% on the whole year. So honestly, I thought it'd be kind of funny to just throw that at him coming in as a guy that doesn't win a lot of face-offs. And he was great about it. He kind of loved it, I think, because we played him back to back. So I was talking with him a little bit on the next game, and obviously him kind of Venmoing me that night, and was hilarious, and all the boys got a good laugh about it. And
did he just walk up to you and say, "Hey, by the way, here's your $100"?
No, he Venmoed it to me when I was at dinner, so it popped up on my phone. And I was laughing because I was sitting with all the guys at dinner, and I was showing them all, and they thought it was awesome. So he ended up giving me a stick the next game. He signed it, sent it over. So it was definitely a pretty cool memory from my first year.
That's awesome.
I told Dregs, I said, man, if some 20-year-old would have bet me, I would have tried so hard not to lose that draw. And then I would have chased you down for the $100 too.
Yeah, he was awesome about it.
What do you think of that stick, by the way? Total aside, isn't that the weirdest thing?
It's crazy, man. Like I thought it was broken when he gave it to me. I didn't think that was actually what he used, but hey, it's working for him. So
that's good stuff, Trevor. Look, we're going to let you go here, brother. Thanks for joining us. Keep going with the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, you, Troy, Terry, the list of players who are doing so many good things right now are part of what is a very positive story in the National Hockey League. I know the season is still early, but keep it going and just continue being who you are.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoying watching you play, Trevor. We'll see you out there in Anaheim soon for the Leafs game, but all the best to you. Thanks for your time.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right, Ray, we'd like to raise a glass to that nice 44-year-old Canadian Club whiskey. 44 years of perfection. That's what it tasted like, didn't it? So smooth.
That was so good. Problem is getting spoiled.
And getting your hands on the 44-year-old stuff.
Yeah.
All of that Chronicle series, right? 41, 42, 43, 44. It's a hot commodity, man. It's tough to get a hold of. It's a good thing we have connections, Ray.
Beautiful connections.
So we're raising a glass to Trevor Zegras of the Anaheim Ducks. Trevor is barely old enough to drink. In some states, he's not. He's 20 years old. So this seems odd. But Trevor, thank you for joining us. And thank you to our pals at Canadian Club. And man, I hope by we being media types, you're an analyst, so I don't really lump you into that category. But I hope we don't knock the swagger out of this kid, the personality out of this kid, because he's so fun, right? He's fun to watch. He's fun to talk to. I mean, you get a real dose of what Trevor Zegras is all about here.
Awesome interview. One of my new favorite players. Chirping players, chirping the refs, like stay in the game. Like I totally identify with that, even though it drives your coach crazy. Like when you said Dallas Aiken says he uses a lot of words in a day. Yeah, I've been accused of that. Like I like it, and his confidence. And let me give you an example, Dregs. I don't know how many years ago the Blue Jays won that huge playoff game against Texas, and Jose Bautista threw his bat, bat flip.
The bat flip.
And I thought, man, I can't believe he did that. I didn't like it. And then the more I thought about it is like, well, why wouldn't he?
Yeah. Man,
there was so much emotion in that moment. Yeah. And so my view changed. And I think that was awesome that Bautista flipped it. And so I'm watching Trevor Zegras, and I can tell you 3 years ago or 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have thought him or Jack Hughes pitching their stick into the stands was a great idea. I think it's awesome. It was special. It was spontaneous, even though Zegras told Hughes he was going to do it if he ever scored one. I love that stuff. And I think the game needs it. The old stuffy pants, that stuff needs to be thrown away, man. It's like part entertainment. These kids have it. They have it. You got to enjoy it. It was awesome.
It was.
Love that interview with that kid.
Me too. And I loved the fact that, he was so eager to come on the Ray and Dregs podcast. And I'm sure he's like this with most media, right? But he was like, geez, I'd really like to walk to the rink. He's in Denver. They're set to play the Colorado Avalanche. I'd like to walk to the rink. So you know what? I'm going to need a bit more time. Can we back the interview up an hour? So he facilitates his day because he wants to walk. He wants to get a little bit of exercise before the skate, but he also wants to make sure that he does Ray and Dregs. So he's got a couple of fans in Ray and Dregs here moving forward for the foreseeable future. Coolbet Chris isn't around to join us. Coolbet Chris Abbott is in Saskatoon with the Olympic curling trials going on there.
Yeah, why do you think he's not available?
Yeah, well, he's probably not out of bed. We're taping the podcast here on Tuesday at just about 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. And I'm watching him Monday night, flipping around through Twitter and whatnot. And he's talking about sipping beers all day and then drinking something called a porn star, I don't know what. Did you see that picture? It was like 18 bottles of booze. And I guess they pour it all into a glass and they call it a porn star. I will have next time he's available. We'll have to get him to
but
talk
it didn't look
it.
Like it was going to have a happy ending. When you're looking at that, man, like that's face first on the pillow when he gets
exactly
to his bed.
What that is. So he's enjoying his away time, but we're going to kind of muddle through the coolbet.co segment. Remember, you can check out all the free sports and casino games and sports odds at coolbet.co. You have to be 19, and remember, stay cool. Always play responsibly. We talked about the Colorado Avalanche kind of turning the corner. We zoned in on Nazem Kadri. and just how well he's been playing of late on a 9-game point streak. But the top Stanley Cup odds are out, Ray, and the Colorado Avalanche are right there. It's a surprise to me. They're listed right now coming into the day as we record this at plus 600. The Florida Panthers are second in the odds rankings at plus 700. A bit early for Colorado to be listed that high, or are you on board with that?
No, I'm on board because I think they're a terrific team. They're running over people right now. And albeit they're not playing Stanley Cup contenders at the moment, but they don't have one of their top 3 defensemen. I think he will be anyway in Bowen Byram. They don't have Nathan McKinnon. They don't have JT Compher. Doesn't matter. This is a good team. My question mark in Colorado is whether Darcy Kemper can be a Stanley Cup goalie. He can run really hot, but he can get a little wobbly at times too. And so that would be my question with Colorado.
All right.
They're good. They're good.
They are good. And you're right. As they get healthy, they're going to be that much better. Switching over to the National Football League, and the Bucks are in the same position as the Colorado Avalanche right now at plus 600. Kansas City Chiefs, not much of a shocker, plus 700. I'm a bit surprised to see the Bills at plus 700. They didn't look so good on Sunday, the bit that I watched. So I don't know. I guess there's a...
You know who I like down at 1,200 is Baltimore. I think
really
Baltimore can scare some teams.
Interesting. So the Bucks is too easy for you at plus 600?
Yeah, too easy, too hard to make me think everything's going to go perfect for them again.
No. All right.
I always shy away from that, but that's just the way I look at it.
It's been a weird season in the NFL because there were so many upsets late, and that's not extraordinary, but normally you see some upsets early in the year, and the survivor pool guys go bananas and all of that. We didn't see a lot of that until recently. So maybe things are leveling off a little bit in the NFL. We'll have to get Chris Abbott next time he's around. I wonder if he'll be back from Saskatoon in time to do episode 10.
Well, he's got 6 days. Yeah, I guess you never know. He might be back and still not be able to do it.
Or he'll go to Vegas. He'll go right from Saskatoon to Vegas and just kind of pop in there.
He's put the miles on. He's been in, where was he, Latvia? No, it wasn't Latvia. It was somewhere over there. And no, he was in somewhere over there.
I know. He had a European, not a vacation. It was a business trip. But he logs the miles, that man. He does.
Yep.
You're going to have to tune him up a little bit. You're going to have to get him on the cami routine. Start looking after yourself, Chris, for heaven's sake. You're traveling.
I don't think he's in that headspace.
Stuff.
He's not in that headspace. No chance.
Nor is he in that business. I feel like if you're going to survive and be successful as Chris Abbott and Coolbet.co is, you got to be a mover and a shaker. You've got to be able to get out there and have some fun. So I'm thinking he's doing that.
Sleep wouldn't be a priority for him.
No. All right. Ask Ray and Dregs anything. Fire your questions to us on Twitter or Instagram at Ray and Dregs or on the website, rayanddregs.com. Presented by our friends at Tommy Gunn's Original Barbershop. Man, Ray, you talk about it on a weekly basis. Have you been there? Have you been back to Tommy Gunn's for a little cleanup? Or
no, I'm going to go right before Christmas. So.
Oh, interesting.
Right before Christmas. Yeah.
Nice.
I love it, man. They're great shop, really professional. Man, you get the little massage. They look after you. They trimmed up the beard. I loved it. I highly recommend it. Me time.
And he time. Everybody's got a little bit of that, right? And it coincides with the fact you're getting tuned up because of the World Junior Championship to some degree, right? Because you don't really have a Christmas holiday. You have to manufacture the Christmas holiday when you cover the World Juniors. But Tommy Gunn's is also the official barber shop for the 2022 World Junior Hockey Championship. All right, where do we want to go? Let's see. Why don't we start with Instagram? Gavin is asking, Ray, Do we think that Alex Ovechkin is going to catch Jaromir Jagr this year in goals? 745 for Ovechkin, Jagr 766. He's got time. Yeah?
Got time. He only needs 20 goals.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's got lots of games. I mean, it would be a disappointment, I would think, a significant disappointment if he didn't get there.
Yeah, I say yes, for sure.
Okay. Josh Joseph wondering, do you have the most memorable experience at either the World Hockey Championship or the World Junior? We probably have many from the World the World Hockey.
Yeah, Dregs, my best memory from the World Hockey Championship, I think he's probably talking as a broadcaster, but mine is as of a player. And we're in 1996. We're in a shootout in the semifinals against Russia. Their first guy scores. Our first four miss. Their next four miss. I'm the last guy. I've got to score to send it into extras. And I did. And then Paul Correa and Yannick Perreault scored, and we went to the finals. We lost to the Czechs, but that's my favorite as a player. As a broadcaster, would be Jaromir Jagr's last appearance for the Czech national team in Prague. They went wild. Like when they have this cheer, basically it says, if you're not jumping, you're not Czech.
Yeah.
And they all start jumping and the building was shaking. It was so cool. And Jagr, you could just see the admiration and love they had for him. The World Junior would be Canada winning in just a wild game in Toronto, the gold medal against Russia. It just was amazing. It was it was so great to be there.
All right, Danny Lambert from Twitter. I don't think it's the same, but maybe. How do you know? Dan Lambert. He's asking. He says, "Look, I just finished Lions in Winter, and they describe how tough Ray's Whalers played the Habs, took them to Game 7 in 1986. Favorite, most difficult? What are your memories from that series, Ray?"
We would have won if Ron Francis didn't have a broken rib. And he was getting it frozen to play. So you can just imagine how that must have felt. And Ronnie was not anywhere near having the impact that he normally would. We lost 2-1 in Game 7 in overtime in the Forum. And man, I love that series because the Forum was hockey history to me. It was like the Palace. And man, I wanted to win in that. I mean, we all did. We were so close.
Awesome. All right. Well, you can continue to follow us and fire us off your questions. Ask Ray and Dregs anything. Our Instagram, Twitter accounts at Ray and Dregs, or on the website, rayandregs.com. Also, check out Ray and Dregs' social channels for Rapid Fire, presented by netcoins.ca. Crypto made easy. A little later this week, we'll have Trevor Zegras from the Anaheim Ducks taking part in Rapid Fire. Wrapping up another edition of Ray and Dregs and podcast. Ray, what's the week looking like here? We're recording Tuesday. You're busy.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm gone Thursday. I was just looking down. Gone Thursday. I have first ABC game. National game is nice. They call it Black Friday sales in the U.S., but it's the day after Thanksgiving, and the Rangers are at Boston at 1. And then jump on a plane and fly to LA after the game. So I'll have a couple of days in LA, and we have the Leafs in Anaheim. So I'll get to see Trevor Zegras on Sunday. So I'll make sure I listen for him.
No kidding. So, you're so many Americans who celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving in October, and then likewise Canadians who celebrate U.S. Thanksgiving. And obviously with you and Cammie, do you do both? So are you eating turkey, the big meals for both the Canadian and the U.S. Thanksgiving?
Yep, and Christmas. Love turkey. Can't get enough. I love it. And Cammie loves it too. And so, of course, we get to see family. Her brother lives here, and youngest brother. And so they're over. We have some friends over, and
nice.
We'll do that we'll do that, before I take off. So looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, a huge shout out to our partners who make the podcast possible. Our title sponsor, Infinity. You can visit infinity.ca to book your contactless test drive. Coolbet.co, the free-to-play sports and casino games website by our friends at Canadian Club Whiskey, who are asking, are you over beer? By Andy.ca. Remember, use code RD75 to save $75 on a mattress. By Tommy Gunn's Original Barbershop. This is Tea Time. Save time and check in with their app. And by Boston Pizza, where you get a free $10 promo card when you buy a $50 Boston Pizza gift card. And as always, a special thank you to you for listening, rating, sharing, following the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and by following us on our YouTube channel. That is episode 9. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And until next week, stay safe.